Now at 9, why Joplin Police will be out with extra patrols for the next couple of days. Plus an update on the proposed Missouri state budget and the debate over public library funding. And
House Republicans passed a bill barring transgender athletes from participating in female sports, but it faces an uphill climb in the Senate. I'm Mallory Rivera in Washington with all the reaction coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm Jalen Banks. The Joplin Police Department has extra patrol officers on the roads today watching for impaired drivers. Police are especially vigilant on this April 20th. 420 is often associated with cannabis use. And KOAM's Amber Jenkins spoke to Joplin Police Department and a local defense attorney about marijuana DUIs.
Today, going forward for several days, a contingent of extra officers that are on the street that are specifically targeting impaired drivers.
Joplin Police Department wants to remind you that driving while high is dangerous and illegal. It
isn't just related to alcohol. It could be marijuana use, it could be methamphetamine, it could be prescription drugs. There's a number of different things that could put an individual in an intoxicated condition.
Breathalyzers are usually the go-to when it comes to identifying how intoxicated someone is on alcohol. However, there are some issues when it comes to marijuana.
The problem is that with marijuana and its derivatives, there is no, I want to say, quantified level at which a person is considered to be intoxicated.
Officers are trained to identify if someone's under the influence of marijuana, but sometimes that's not enough.
So I can't get into the individual specifics for each one, but we've gone through and offered additional training, especially with recent changes regarding marijuana.
We know that THC can stay in someone's body for 48 hours and even sometimes as long as 2 weeks. So the mere presence of THC doesn't really establish that someone is intoxicated on THC or that they're impaired by THC.
If you're arrested for DUI, it could cost you a pretty penny, even if it's your first time.
The actual economic cost could be anywhere from probably starting at about $2,500 up to, the sky's the limit.
Reporting in Joplin, Amber Jenkins, KOAM News.
Captain William Davis says there are options for getting home when you're intoxicated through ride shares, taxis, or good old walking. Missouri's proposed budget again contains state funding for public libraries and no longer prohibits any spending toward diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. The Senate Appropriations Committee made those changes as well as other to the House-approved budget. It will now go to the full Senate for debate. Governor Mike Parsons' proposed budget initially included around $4.5 million for public libraries. However, that money was removed by the House, citing a lawsuit filed to overturn a state law that bans some books from library shelves as the reason for the cut. And Chief Meteorologist Doug Cady joins us with the first look at the weather.
Well, we got some scattered showers, even a few thunderstorms out there late morning into the early afternoon. Then it actually turned out to be a pretty good afternoon. 74 for a high, started at 67. 70 is our normal high for this time of the year. We got some thunderstorms, severe weather last night on the Kansas side. Front rolled through this morning. Now we look pretty good. All the storms across southeastern Missouri down through parts of Arkansas, stretching all the way back into parts of Texas. Heading away from us, temperatures behind it, we're sitting mainly into the upper 50s across the region, but we are going to drop back as we go through the overnight hours. Still kind of breezy, northwesterly winds, 10 to 20, gusts a little bit higher than that at times, but the winds are going to calm down a bit for us tonight. A lot cooler. Eventually we drop back to 44, 58 by 10 a.m. A lot of clouds, of course. We're going to look at some cooler weather moving in here in just a bit.
Oklahoma authorities say 3 people died in storms last night that caused extensive damage across the central part of the state. Those storms produced up to a dozen tornadoes, some of them strong. This is video from the town of Shawnee. Homes there were destroyed and schools were heavily damaged. Governor Kevin Stitt visited Shawnee today to tour the damage. He says he's considering an emergency declaration to help with recovery.
So they're just assessing all the damage. We've already got engineers on site, assessing the buildings right now and all the things that were damaged. And so anyway, we'll put it back together, and I'm looking at declaring an emergency declaration here for these 4 counties, and so our team's working hard to get all the local communities all the support that they need.
Freeman Health System today recognized its graduate nurses. The hospital held a signing today for 32 nurses on their way to becoming licensed. The nurses still need to complete an exam, but afterwards will work for Freeman as registered nurses. Officials say the recognition is important.
I always like to prove myself at new jobs, and I feel like I've been working towards this a long time, and I'm excited to just be able to get started finally.
Well, because I really enjoy nursing. I'm passionate about taking care of people. I love helping people when they're at their worst.
No, the event was held at the North End Zone facility at Missouri Southern. Neosho County Community College hosted its first ever NC3 National Letter of Intent signing today. NC3 is the National Coalition of Certification Centers, and it mirrors the NCAA's National Signing Day for athletes. At the signing day is for students with plans to enroll into some of the college's technical programs. Joseph Tapia signed in electrical and industrial maintenance technology, but he didn't sign just for his career.
So the reason I chose here, and I thought it was a really great idea, was not only did it have the programs I wanted, but it also had a opportunity for me to continue wrestling. And I love the sport of wrestling, and it's going to have my program, so it was a perfect opportunity for me.
The college also announced the winner of their 3M scholarship. It'll support their area of study in the fall semester. Is it fair for females when they compete against transgender athletes? House Republicans say it's fundamentally unfair. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera reports on a new legislation they passed along party lines addressing the issue.
On this vote, the yeas are 219, the nays are 203.
House Republicans are celebrating a victory after they passed a bill barring schools that receive federal funding from letting transgender athletes play in women's sports. Several female athletes supported the measure, which they say upholds fairness.
I raced against these athletes over a dozen times, and they would beat me out by 20 meters in the 100-meter dash every single time without fail.
The Republican-backed bill specifically looks to change Title IX, which prohibits sex discrimination. The legislation states the sex of an athlete is defined only by their reproductive biology and genetics at birth.
The whole intention of Title IX was to create more opportunities for women to compete in sports.
But the Republicans' victory may not last, with the bill expected to stall in the Democratic-led Senate. Democrats argue Republicans are the ones being unfair, suggesting GOP members are pushing the issue to score political points.
I would hope we don't politicize an issue like this, that we recognize these are human beings.
At least 21 states have already placed restrictions on transgender athletes, but the nation's highest court has so far limited its say. Earlier this month, it allowed a 12-year-old transgender girl in West Virginia to compete on her school's girls' track and cross-country teams while her case moves through the courts.
I'm excited that that kid gets to keep playing and she gets to keep running and having fun.
The White House has indicated President Biden will veto the Republicans' bill if it lands on his desk. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
Coming up, waiting on the future of the abortion pill access.
Abortion rights supporters and opponents are watching and waiting for a key ruling from the Supreme Court. I'm Griff Jenkins in Washington. I've got the details coming up.
The Supreme Court hit the pause button on the high-stakes decision over continued access to a widely used abortion drug. But what comes next? Fox News correspondent Griff Jenkins has more from Washington.
There's a political attack on our public health system.
Democrats not mincing words as they go on the offensive against efforts to restrict abortion access. On Wednesday, the Supreme Court hit the pause button on a high-stakes decision over the abortion drug mifepristone. They're expected to issue a final ruling Friday on a challenge to the FDA's authority to approve that drug. It's the first time that's been questioned by a federal court.
This is a slippery slope. Allowing plaintiffs to go after FDA-approved drugs is something that could be open to any other sort of medication.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Senate Democrats beat back an attempt by the GOP to force the VA healthcare system to stop providing abortions to veterans. The measure by Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville failing along a largely party line vote.
The hard right is telling our veterans that they'll be treated as second-class citizens, and we say no way.
Abortion opponents have had more luck outside of Washington. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a 6-week abortion ban in his state, and lawmakers in North Dakota are close to passing a near total ban on the procedure. But some Republicans say their party needs to start moderating its position as they gear up for the 2024 election.
You have to listen to your constituents, and they are talking about this issue. We will not win the popular vote in 24 if we continue down this path of extremism.
It's not clear when the Supreme Court will announce its decision, but the stay issued on Wednesday expires at 11:59 p.m. on Friday. In Washington, Griff Jenkins, Fox News.
Cognitive impairment may be detectable long before memory problems become obvious, and researchers say a simple test using cards could provide an early warning. A study published by the American Academy of Neurology tested people with no thinking or memory problems and then followed them for 10 years. Those who performed poorly on the card test were far more likely to later develop cognitive impairment. They say the test could help patients get treatment earlier. Women with parental depression are more likely to suffer from heart problems up to 2 years after giving birth. That's the finding from a new study published by the American Heart Association. Researchers found those diagnosed with parental depression had an 85% higher risk of a heart attack and 42% higher risk of stroke. They say it's important for doctors to help patients take preventative measures. And Doug is back with a complete look at the forecast, and later we'll hear from the Frontenac Raiders baseball team on their undefeated start to the season.
Well, of course, it turned out to be a decent afternoon after we got some scattered thunderstorms during the morning into the early afternoon. But again, the key word here, scattered, none at the airport in Joplin. For the month, we're hurting. We're only at about 0.2 of an inch, and this is one of our wetter months, so we need to catch up. Now, next week is going to be rainier, which is good, but we have already fallen behind by over 2 inches. New drought tracker is out, and run along I-44, south of I-44 has been doing great with the rain. So no drought. Once you get to Joplin, it's dry. Severe drought once you hit Pittsburgh. Extreme drought once you hit Parsons. And then exceptional drought once you get into our western counties in southeastern Kansas. So we need some rain, but it's going to stay dry as we go through the next couple days. Also cooling down, 58 in Nevada, Neosho 62 in Veneta, 61 in Parsons, Iola a little bit cooler at 54. Let's go outside, 7th and Range Line, sitting at 56, north wind, still kind of breezy at about 10. We're still getting gusts right around 20 miles per hour. So it's going to stay a little breezy out there as we go through the overnight hours for us tonight. Not terrible, but we are going to have winds kind of gusting upwards of 15, maybe 20 at times. And you can see those gusts kind of in that 20 to 25 mile per hour range. Also cooler, we're going to drop back into the 40s. Overnight low at 44, some clouds in the morning, rebounding back to 58 by 10 a.m. But it looks pretty good, pretty much clear skies right now. All the showers, all the thunderstorms we had earlier today, these are gone. Moving across eastern Missouri, still down in north central parts of Arkansas. Quite a bit of severe weather today off to our east. You can see this from Illinois down through parts of Arkansas. Still, we have severe weather ongoing once you get down into parts of Texas. But again, this is moving away from us, so we look pretty good as we go through the next couple days. But look at this big upper level low, the snow across the northern plains. And this is a slow mover. And because it is a slow mover, on the back side, look at the jet. Comes right out of Canada, so it brings in that cooler air. This is going to sit kind of spinning to the northeast of us, so we'll be on the back side through the weekend. So what this means is we're going to get a couple nights that it gets pretty cold down into the 30s near that frost level. All right, for us tonight, we drop back mid-40s. We get some clouds in here through the morning. Can't rule out a random sprinkle or even a quick shower. 62 by the time we get into the noon hour, and I think most of us 65, 66, 67. We are going to have a lot of clouds across the region. As we go into tomorrow night, still partly cloudy skies, but look at our temperatures. We drop back upper 30s for overnight low, so it gets a little bit colder as we get into tomorrow night and kind of a chilly weekend. 66 tomorrow, 37 tomorrow night, 56 Saturday, down to 33 by Sunday morning. So that could be a frost, which none of the plants obviously want to see. High temp at 58 on Sunday. We'll look kind of at our rain chances next week here in the second half hour.
So you said next month is going to be a wetter month for us?
It should
Fingers
be.
crossed.
Yeah, we need the rain now because it dries up in the summer.
All right, thank you, Doug. Coming up, the battle over the nation's debt.
Neither side is backing down as the fight over the debt ceiling is heating up. I'm Grady Trimble on Capitol Hill. The details next.
Top Democrats, including Senate Majority Leader Schumer, are rejecting the Republican plan to tackle the debt ceiling crisis. Fox Business correspondent Grady Trimble has more from Capitol Hill.
Democrats on Capitol Hill sounding off on the Republican plan to tackle both government spending and the debt ceiling crisis. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced the proposal Wednesday, calling for federal spending to be snapped back to 2022 levels and future spending capped at 1%. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says if it passes the House, that plan will be dead on arrival in the Senate.
Wall Street billionaires are not asked to pay even a nickel under McCarthy's bill. Hurt the parents, hurt the kids, hurt law enforcement, hurt small businesses, but leave the billionaires alone?
President Biden still refusing to negotiate, insisting on a clean bill to raise the limit and avoid a catastrophic debt default. He says the GOP plan is extreme and caters to the far right. But House Republicans are sticking to their guns, claiming it makes no sense to authorize more borrowing and spending before addressing the root cause of the crisis.
What I have seen so far, I think it's a very positive step in the right direction.
The Treasury Department warns the country risks not being able to pay its bills by June if the ceiling isn't raised by then. Now, a growing number of lawmakers on both sides of the aisle sounding the alarm and urging the two sides to make a deal.
You got two positions. That's time to negotiate.
Yeah.
That's all. I've just said that. We can't play Russian roulette with it, and we can't let it continue on.
JP Morgan says there's a, quote, non-trivial risk of a first-ever debt default as early as next month. On Capitol Hill, Grady Trimble, Fox Business.
New economic data out today suggests the U.S. economy is weakening. The Labor Department says first-time jobless claims rose to 245,000 for the first weekend, April 15th. That's about 5,000 more than economists were expecting. Weekly jobless claims have ticked up in the past few weeks. They are now hovering slightly above pre-pandemic levels. Continuing jobless claims, which are filed by people who have received unemployment benefits for more than 1 week, were also up. And Netflix is delaying its crackdown on account sharing, as well as its paid sharing plan in the U.S., which allows users to share their account with people outside of their home for an extra fee. The streaming service says it faced what it calls cancel reaction when launching the plan in other countries. Netflix believes the strategy will eventually grow its membership. The limit on password sharing, which was supposed to have happened already according to Netflix's original plan, is now expected to go into effect by the end of June. Up next, a new report breaks down what the color of your iPhone says about you. The color of your iPhone might be revealing a lot about your personality. The Wall Street Journal asked if a psychologist and color theorist to weigh in on why you might have gravitated toward a certain iPhone color. The psychologist says people who have a yellow iPhone are drawn to its mood-boosting, optimistic, and uplifting effects. People who appreciate life complexity tend to gravitate toward lavender. Red is for people who are attention seekers, and the psychologist adds, a black phone exudes strength and self-assuredness. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. We'll hear from the director of Crosslines in Carthage, Tony Smith, on her inspiring story. Plus, how Black Rain Ordinance in the Osho showed its appreciation of law enforcement. A woman from Carthage, Missouri shares the story of her struggles with the hopes of inspiring others. KOAM's Carrie Worthen has this story.
I had went through a pretty awful divorce in 2012, and my now ex-husband and myself began to use meth. Long story short, I ended up in an abandoned warehouse in Springfield, Missouri. I was still using meth daily. I would go and find food out of dumpsters.
She then found herself without shelter after police kicked her out of the warehouse. Tony Smith had nowhere to go. Today, Smith is an executive director of Crosslines in Carthage, Missouri. But her road to getting where she is today has not been easy.
Wandered around Walmart for a couple of hours, and then the manager made me leave. And I went to a gentleman's house that I used to do some work for off and on for him. And I knew he smoked on his front porch, and so I went over there to smoke one of his cigarettes. And his car was in the driveway and the keys were in it, and I took the car into a Dollar Tree to steal something to eat. And the car had a tracker on it. And so the police came right in and arrested me.
Smith says that the arrest led to a change in her lifestyle.
By the grace of God, I was arrested, and when I got out of jail, I went to a recovery program, and then I came to the crisis center, and it just changed my life. You know, I began the path of going to work and saving my money and paying off my debt and my legal fees and getting my student loans and, you know, back into rehabilitation, as they call it, and began to save up money.
Smith started out at Crosslines volunteering for nearly 3 years before the executive director job opened up, and she was encouraged to apply.
Carthage Community Crisis Center, everybody that pours into the Crisis Center, everybody that pours into Crosslines, and people, I would have said, in spite of knowing my past, still love me, but because of my past, they love me. Through the Crisis Center, and, you know, they do in-house Bible study, and you know, I've written in my Bible, in my prayer journal, God, I would like the home that you'd like me to have, the church you'd like me to have, the job you'd like me to have, and he just above and beyond, far more than I could ask for.
Smith just bought her first home and visits the Carthage Crisis Center often to mentor and help others. She also says to reach out anytime you need to talk, pray, or get guidance for some help. Black Rain Ordinance today in Neosho, Missouri celebrated law enforcement with a day out on the shooting range. The business is one of the largest manufacturers in Neosho, and they happened to manufacture firearms. Around every 3 or 4 months, they invite local agencies and law enforcement officers to check out the facilities to see how they can manufacture firearms. Because of it, it turned into sort of a law enforcement appreciation day.
And then that also gives the agency as well as the individual officers a chance to ask questions. Answer questions that they may have about how a particular gun is manufactured or what different options they could get with the firearm.
Black Rain Ordinance can be found at I-49 on Iris Road south of Neosho. They have a storefront open to the public. The state of Missouri launched a new campaign aimed at educating parents about candy-flavored tobacco products that could be appealing to kids. The program is called Tobacco is Changing. A 2021 Missouri Youth Risk Behavioral Survey shows 40% of Missouri high schoolers have tried an e-cigarette. By going to tobaccoischangingmo.org, parents can view photos of different tobacco products and get more information on tobacco industry tactics. He might not have announced his candidacy yet, but Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is already taking the incoming fire which comes with it, and not just from former President Trump. President Biden can relate. He also hasn't announced anything, but now he's suddenly facing a primary challenger. Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively reports from Washington.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis may not be an official presidential candidate, but he sure sounds like one in this South Carolina speech, taking aim at everything from Mickey Mouse to beer.
Disney, we make sure that we'll keep them in their pen one way or another. Gender ideology has no place in our K through 12 school system. It's a one-off, like this ridiculous thing with Bud Light by trying to push the transgenderism.
DeSantis was also on Capitol Hill this week, trying to gin up support from fellow Floridians.
Politics is you start with your base, and your base ought to be your home state.
But that other Florida man, Donald Trump, has far more endorsements.
They are realizing that the Trump train has not just left the station, and it has not returned to the station, and it is moving along forcefully.
On the Democratic side, next week marks 4 years since President Biden launched his 2020 campaign, but this TV appearance is the closest he's gotten to declaring his 2024 bid.
Well, I plan on running out, but we're not prepared to announce it yet.
Mr. Biden does have a challenger. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has launched a long shot bid from the left.
Our democracy is devolving into kind of a corporate plutocracy.
President Biden will reportedly meet with major Democratic donors next week. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
A bit later, the latest in robotic innovations.
A new soccer-playing robot is hoping to score big. I'm Jeff Paul with a look at the humanoid that's turning heads. Coming up.
Well, it's cooler outside as a cold front rolled through late this morning, but still we have pretty nice temperatures, but it is going to cool down a bit as we go through the next couple days. Right now, 57 in Fort Scott, 55 in Independence, 65 in Grove. Anderson is sitting at about 64 degrees, but most of us are going to drop down into the mid 40s later on tonight, so a cooler night. 56 at the airport, north winds 5 to 10, humidity is at 57%. We've had these northwesterly winds, not windy today. Yesterday, I mean, it was moving. Today, we're just getting, we'll just call it breezy. But still, we're getting some gust out there over the past couple hours, still kind of in that 15 to 20 to 25 mile per hour range. But these winds will calm down a little bit as we go through the overnight hours for us tonight, which is good news. All right, through the night, 56 at 11, 46 by 7, low of 44. Get some clouds in the morning, could even get a sprinkle, 58 by 10 a.m. But right now we look pretty good, pretty much clear skies behind the storms. We got some scattered storms this morning, but now rolling off toward the east. Actually quite a bit of severe weather today. Illinois, parts of Missouri, this line is calming down a bit. Severe weather still ongoing down through parts of Texas. But this big upper level low spinning, and what this is doing is pulling in that colder air. Look at our jet stream. It's right out of Canada. Of course, Canada is colder than what we are. So this is going to take its time. So here's Saturday morning, and as we go into Sunday, it slowly pushes by, but we still get that colder air on the backside drawing in. So that means our temperatures go down a bit as we go through the next few days. All right, let's go into the morning. Starting mid 40s, we get some clouds through the morning. Don't be surprised if you get a few sprinkles. Lower 60s by noon. Most of us will get up into the mid 60s for highs. About 64 in Nevada, Cassville 66, Grove 68, about 68 in Chanute. Tomorrow night, still partly cloudy, but we start to cool down. We drop back into the upper 30s. I think we'll stay just above the frost level, but we're definitely pushing it. Saturday's a nice day. It's just kind of chilly. High temps only into the mid to upper 50s during the afternoon. Then as we go into Saturday night, look at this, temperatures drop into the 30s. I think we're going to hover just above freezing, so this means we'll most likely get a frost at least north of I-44 by Sunday morning. So that's something we definitely want to watch. All right, day planner for you tomorrow, 59 by 11, 64 by 1, 66 by 3, 66 by 5 p.m. Not a bad day, plus it's Friday. 56 Saturday, 58 on Sunday. Some showers get in here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. A break Thursday, some thunderstorms possible Friday and Saturday. But overall, look at the temps next week. It's chilly for this time of the year, and then we'll really warm up once we get into May.
Yeah, once we hit those 50s, I think people are going to be in for a bit of an awakening after all the warm weather we've gotten as of late.
We were at 86 2 days ago.
Man, 86? Yeah. Man, take us back. All right, thank you, Doug. Coming up in sports, Webb City Baseball aims to knock off one of the best teams in the state. Plus, the Frontenac Raiders are off to an undefeated start in the first month of the season. And Jacob Leonard has that story and more next.
The Columbus Titans are off to a hot start to the softball season. The Titans are 10-1 overall. They've won 8 games in a row after sweeping a doubleheader from Pittsburgh on Tuesday. Now this afternoon, Columbus remains at home, hosting defending 3A state runner-up Prairie View. Pick it up early, bottom of the first inning. Grace Major rips this one into left. It's an RBI single. Titans take a 1-0 lead. Top of the fourth now. 3-0 Columbus. 2 on, 2 outs for Prairie View. Aubrey Saporito gets the big strikeout to get out of the inning. Bottom of the fifth, same score, Katie Mooney hits it off the end of the bat, but it falls in for the RBI single. KT Lopp scores 4-0 Titans. Later in the inning, it's 5-0 Columbus. Addie Saporito hits a sac fly to right. That scores Katie Mooney. Titans push their lead to 6-0. Columbus wins and gets their winning streak to 9 games, beating Prairie View 8-1. A big game tonight for the Webb City Cardinals on the road against Nixa, a team ranked 6th in the state in Class 6. The Cardinals had a 7-0 lead. The Eagles come back to force extra innings and eventually win at 8-7. Webb City slips to 11-7 overall this season. Well, the Frontenac Raiders are cruising in the first month of the baseball season. The Raiders are 7-0 to begin their schedule, and showing no sign of slowing down. The Frontenac Raiders are off to a hot start in their first season under head coach Caleb Turlip.
The program was in a good spot. We had a lot of guys with experience, so it wasn't like you were starting from ground zero.
It just starts with how good we've been pitching it and how good we've been playing defense, and we've held a few teams to scoreless, and when you do that, it makes your job pretty easy.
The Raiders are 7-0 in the first month of their schedule.
I think it's just the way we practice. Every day's intense, and it's always a day to get better, and I think we do a good job of that. It's getting better every day, and I think together as a team, we've been playing together, and it's been fun to see.
I think our seniors have provided a great amount of leadership. They've all played a lot, so we've got a lot of experience. They're really taken well to what we're trying to do, both offensively and defensively.
Now, their hot start includes a pair of wins over defending regional champion Girard and wins over solid Southwest Missouri programs in Carl Junction and Nevada.
We were excited to see a couple of good arms early, so that was a good test for us, and we knew that our coaches had a practice plan and that we were ready to go.
And while they are off to a hot start, some of Frontenac's biggest games are still ahead.
I think this last month or so is going to be fun. It's going to be a challenge, and it'll be fun to see how we do.
In the next 3 weeks, the Raiders play Chanute, Fort Scott, Webb City, and CNC rival Columbus in a matchup that may decide the CNC League title.
It means a lot to win this conference. You know, day in and day out, you face great teams. I don't think there's a better conference top to bottom across the state. You know, you go play teams like Baxter and Galena that don't get as much recognition as sometimes maybe we do or Columbus, but they're going to give you a dogfight. We're going to give them our best too. So it's fun to go out and play CNC teams because that gets you ready for the big stage if you make it there.
And the big stage is exactly what Frontenac is aiming for.
That's probably our goal. Is, you know, our regional is really tough, you know, so to say that's your goal, you're really putting a lofty one out there. But the big thing, we want these guys to have the experience to compete for, you know, a league championship and potentially for a regional championship, you know, and have that experience on your way out to possibly get to the state tournament.
Frontenac is back in action tomorrow on the road for a non-conference doubleheader against Chanute. And the Raiders are currently 4-0 in the CNC, and they're also ranked 9th in the state in Class 3A right now in the KABC rankings.
And as Logan Myers said, top to bottom, best conference in the state.
The league is very tough, puts teams in state champions my whole career here every single year, baseball and softball.
All right, sounds like it's going to be another exciting season. All right, well, that's it for sports. We're back with more after this. Robots are becoming a greater part of everyday life and even sports. Engineers in California are showing off their new bot soccer skills. Fox News correspondent Jeff Paul reports.
Robots come in all shapes and sizes. But one new bot is turning heads and hoping to score big. Meet Artemis. Coming in at just under 5 feet tall, it's the latest humanoid from engineers at the University of California, Los Angeles.
I would like to live with robots. Robots in the home, doing the dishes, taking out the trash. How cool would that be?
Unlike most robots today, Artemis is outfitted with technology that mimics biological muscles, making its movements less stiff. Researchers at UCLA are perfecting the robot's running abilities and teaching it to play soccer, just in time for Artemis to compete in this summer's Robo Cup soccer competition in France.
We've been world champions 5 times. That was 8 years ago. I think it's about time for us to come back to a Robo Cup with Artemis.
But with all this powerful technology behind Artemis, why not teach it more important tasks besides playing sports?
If your robot cannot even play a game of soccer, how would you be able to use these robots for more important things, such as saving people's lives? And as a matter of fact, we have robots that we're using for firefighting and disaster relief. And the interesting thing is all these technology we develop for soccer playing robots are being used for these more important applications.
Artemis is already off to a good start. It can walk at a pace just under 5 miles per hour, making it one of the world's quickest humanoid robots. In Los Angeles, Jeff Paul, Fox News.
Coming up, we'll meet a chunky cat in Virginia who found a new home after stealing thousands of hearts. A gloriously gluttonous shelter cat in Virginia now has a perfect new home. Patches weighs in at 42 pounds, and as Raven Brown reports, the big boy is still in the hearts of everyone he meets.
When we first saw him, we were like, definitely the biggest cat that we have ever seen.
Meet Patches.
Sadly, he was an owner surrender. The owner could no longer care for him.
The cat stealing everyone's hearts in Richmond, and for one obvious reason.
So he came in at around, I think, 42 pounds when he came in. So huge. He should be probably, let's say, 15, 20 pounds max. And even that is a big cat.
The largest cat the shelter has ever seen in its history.
We did his blood work. Surprisingly, no thyroid issues, diabetes, nothing like that. His blood work looks excellent. So he is, really set up to start on that weight loss journey right away.
Patches has already lost a few pounds in their care after being on a special diet and exercise plan.
And as cute as he is, we also know too that he can't be that comfortable. So we want to see him get down to slim and trim and moving around and having more fun.
Now neutered, tested, and chipped, Patches is ready to go and find his forever home. He was shared on Facebook Wednesday morning, and as you can imagine, the love instantly came flowing in. The post going viral with people wanting Patches to join their family.
We've gotten a ton of emails. One as far away as California.
And within a few hours, the perfect match. His new owner showing up just in time to give Patches a new home and a second chance at a healthier life.
We love him, so we hope that the world will love him and kind of embrace Patches.
Well, it looks like Garfield's got some competition for chubby and cute cat. And that's our time for tonight, and thank you all so much for joining us. But before you go, we'll leave you with a video of a Tasmanian devil and their joeys enjoying a birthday treat at the Australian Zoo. Be safe, and we'll do this all again tomorrow. See you then.